Hi, I'm Troy Sayers. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing a watercolor. I do a lot of different types of work. You can see behind me I have large scale oil painting. I'm working on a bust of Tecumseh here. Some of these projects could take a long time. I love watercolors because you get just the immediate, instant results and satisfaction from it. So today we're going to be doing this cardinal couple, and I'm going to start you out with a little demo on some of the materials you're going to need. So you might want to bust out a piece of paper and a pen, take some notes so when you go to the art supply store you know what to get. And so let's get started. So these are some of the materials you're going to need. I like to use these tube watercolors and gouaches. I use this butcher's tray as a palette, but you don't have to use that for these other types of trays and things. But you're still going to need a big surface area, so if you use something like this, then you're going to want, you know, a big plate or something to mix on. Get yourself a big pickle jar or something. An assortment of brushes. The size will depend on the size of the work. So if you're working on a size like this, you're not going to need big brushes like this. You can go with the next size down. I've got some flat brushes, some round brushes, and I like this these brushes that are flat but have a round profile, which I like a lot. Masking tape. This is liquid masking film, which is kind of ideal for masking an area off that you don't want to paint on. You can peel off the mask and then paint it later. A couple of drawing pencils. Get yourself, you know, you can use a regular number 2 pencil, but also get yourself a hard pencil. Too hard or something, hard lead drawing pencil. A kneaded rubber eraser. Comes in a little packet like this, and then it's kind of like silly putty or something. Sponge. This paper, you know, this is really good watercolor paper. You can get this in pads like this, or I like to get it by the sheet so I can cut it to the size I want. You can also use these watercolors come in these little kits. Winsor Newton makes this really nice little kit, and the colors come in these little cakes like this. And they work quite well. They're very nice. The first thing you have to understand is that when you're painting with watercolor, it's more of a staining of the paper rather than applying paint like if you're painting with acrylic or oil paints. You're applying paint to the surface of that canvas. In this case, you're more staining it. Okay, so I want to show you a couple of basic things, principles, and I'm not going to show you a lot of techniques and things because you can get those from a book, and there are too many. And but the basic idea is that when you get an area wet and add that pigment, like I just did here, then that water is going to stay there. So if I sit and allow that to dry, then I could go back and I could paint in another color around it. And those edges, it's going to hold its edges. And that's how you can achieve detail. Now if I go in and start to apply paint right now, the edges are going to get fuzzy. And that might be what you want. But let's show you this wash. If by getting an area wet. Okay, so I have pigment in there, but you could do this with you know, you could get it wet with just water like that as well, but I wanted to really show you what's going on. Now you can apply paint within that. Now I'm going to get, you see I'm getting a different color here. And if I apply this here, now, and just pull up a little bit, now I can go back here, rinse my brush clean, and then I can pull that together and you can get that gradient, sort of airbrushed effect. And I can continue to add pigment to this, you know, intensifying that gradient. I'm not trying to do anything really neat right now, obviously. You'll see what's going to happen here. And now this is already, I've already given that a moment. This other stroke that I applied, and now you can see how I could, at this point, it's already started to dry a little bit. I can go in now, and those aren't going to be really fuzzy like these. The wet on wet, you get a nice gradient, a nice blending. Dry against dry, you can achieve some different types of detail. There are all types of different techniques and you know, approaches. I'm sure everybody does it a little bit differently, but basically this is my watercolor station, how it looks. You're going to want an incline. If you don't have a drawing table like this or something like that, you can use a piece of board, something rigid, hardboard or masonite or something like that, where you could tape your work on there and then you're able to pull it up, because this wouldn't work quite as well sometimes lying flat. You need gravity working with you and being able to, you know, get the incline that you're comfortable at and everything else like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start on these birds. In case you haven't noticed, I sped the segment up a little so you can watch it a little more quickly. I always start with the light colors and work in the darker tones as I go. When you mix your color to achieve the different values, just add water for the lighter values and just go back to your source color that you mixed for the darker shadowed areas. Sometimes I'll mix in a little burnt umber in my black. It makes for nice warm tones for shading and shadows. There's a cardinal couple that lives in our backyard, or at least I see them back there often. So I was able to get a really good look at them. But then I also went on the internet and looked at some photographs to use for reference. But I can't stress enough, when you're doing something like this, never look at someone else's art. If you decided you wanted to paint some cardinals like this, don't look at my art. Look at nature. Look at a photograph. And so you're not reinterpreting someone else's vision. This video was a lot of fun to make. I hope you got something out of it, and have fun painting.